Picture this. It's October 1929. You've just finished dinner, maybe roast beef, mashed potatoes, and green beans, a normal weeknight meal. You kiss your kids goodnight, sit down with the evening paper, and read the shocking headline, Stock Market Collapses. You don't know it yet, but the world you're living in is about to vanish. Within weeks, banks will close. Within months, neighbors will lose their jobs. Within a year, entire families will wonder not what they want to eat, but whether they'll eat at all. Tonight, we're telling the story of food in the Great Depression, not just what people ate, but how they survived, through ingenuity, foraging, and recipes that sound strange to us today. Along the way, we'll hear true accounts from survivors, walk through the kitchens of the 1930s, and discover how food was both the greatest hardship and the strongest glue holding families together. So grab your plates. Dinner is about to be served, Depression style.
The crash that emptied the pantry.
The Great Depression wasn't caused by a single event, but historians often mark its beginning at Black Tuesday, October 29th, 1929, when over 16 million shares of stock were sold in a frenzy. Banks had overextended credit. Ordinary people had borrowed money they couldn't repay, and the speculative bubble burst. By 1933, unemployment hit 25% nationwide. Over 9,000 banks failed. Farm prices fell by 60%, meaning crops rotted in fields while families starved. Average household income plummeted by 40%. Those hit hardest? Farmers in the Midwest and South, factory workers in industrial cities, and Black and immigrant families who already lived closer to poverty before the crash. One Kansas farmer told a WPA interviewer in 1936, "We had food, yes, but no money. I could grow 100 bushels of corn, but I couldn't get 5 cents for it. So I fed it to the hogs, and sometimes we just ate the cornmeal ourselves."
Empty plates, new recipes.
When money dried up, food traditions had to change. Families learned to stretch ingredients, swap in cheaper substitutes, or forage what they could find. But this wasn't just about feeding the stomach, it was about dignity. Many Depression recipes were about pretending to have something better. Fake it till you make it, but with food. Let's look at some of the most popular and strangest Depression dishes.
Hoover stew, the politics of hunger.
Named mockingly after President Herbert Hoover, blamed for the Depression, this dish was cooked in soup kitchens across America. Here is the recipe, as recorded in a 1930s community cookbook. 1 box of macaroni, cheapest pasta available. 2 cups canned tomatoes. 1 sliced hot dog, sometimes stretched to feed 6 people. 1 cup canned corn or beans if available. Boil macaroni, add everything else. Simmer until it looks edible. A woman named Clara Canucciari, later famous on YouTube as Depression Cooking with Clara, remembered, "My mother would take 1 hot dog, slice it into 7 pieces, and tell us each it was enough. We knew not to complain. You don't complain when there's food on your plate." Mock apple pie, dessert without fruit. Apples were expensive in cities, so Nabisco pushed a recipe that became legendary, mock apple pie. The ingredients were simple: 36 Ritz crackers broken up, 2 cups sugar, 2 teaspoons cream of tartar, 2 tablespoons lemon juice, a few pats of margarine. You boiled water, sugar, and tartar into syrup, poured it over crackers, added lemon juice, and baked. The crackers softened to mimic apples. Nabisco even printed the recipe on the Ritz box, bragging that it was as good as grandmother's apple pie. Vinegar pie and water pie. When you don't have fruit, butter, or eggs, what do you make? Pies made from almost nothing. Vinegar pie, sugar, flour, butter substitute, water, and a splash of vinegar for tartness. The water pie was literally just sugar, flour, and water baked into something resembling custard. One Missouri woman remembered, "It didn't taste like much, but it was sweet, and sweet was something." Bread and gravy, the meal that defined the era. For many children, the most common meal wasn't a recipe at all. It was just bread with gravy. Flour, lard, and water made a thin sauce poured over stale bread, filling, cheap, and, at least in memory, comforting. In 1937, the WPA interviewed someone in Kentucky. My mama used to say, as long as we got flour, we got supper. She made biscuits out of lard and water, and we ate 'em with milk gravy. That was breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner, too.
Regional survival recipes.
The Great Depression didn't look the same in every state. What you ate depended on where you lived and what you could scavenge.
What it looked like in the Midwest and Dust Bowl states.
The Dust Bowl, 1930 to 1936, turned fertile land into barren dust. Families ate cornmeal mush, fried potatoes, and beans. Recipes included cornmeal mush, cornmeal boiled into a porridge. When cooled, it was sliced and fried. Milk toast, toast soaked in hot milk, sometimes with sugar. True account. An Oklahoma mother told her children to chew slowly so they'd feel full longer. Then we get to the South. In the South, cornbread and beans ruled. Hunting and foraging were common. Squirrel stew, rabbit pot pie, poke salad, boiled pokeweed leaves, and kilt lettuce, wild greens wilted with hot bacon grease. One Tennessee man said, "We ate squirrel 3 times a week. We joked we knew each one by name."
The northern states and cities.
City families relied on soup kitchens, church charity, and immigrant traditions. Italians made cabbage pasta, Jewish families made potato kugel, Polish families relied on pierogies stuffed with potatoes. In Detroit, auto workers who lost jobs often scavenged bruised produce tossed behind grocery stores. One woman recalled, "We'd wait until after dark to gather the lettuce leaves the grocer threw away. We made salad out of garbage."
The Wild, Wild West.
Migrants fleeing the Dust Bowl to California often lived in camps. They survived on beans, tortillas, and oranges. One California boy later recalled, "We ate oranges until our mouths were raw, but we were lucky. Other kids had nothing." 1929, the fall. At first, the Depression wasn't obvious. Families still had savings, store shelves were full, and most believed the crash was temporary. Dinner tables still looked normal. A roast chicken on Sundays, bread and butter, maybe apple pie. But behind the scenes, the ground was shifting. The average wage dropped by 3% in 1929. And in rural states like Kansas, wheat prices collapsed from $1.03 a bushel in 1928 to 64 cents by the end of the following year. Farmers suddenly couldn't afford their own harvests. Recipes stayed familiar, but families started cutting corners, watering down milk, saving bacon grease in a tin on the stove, reusing coffee grounds twice.
1930. Hunger arrives.
By 1930, unemployment doubled. Banks began collapsing, and for the first time, families really felt it. One Chicago man told a WPA interviewer, "We had sausage once a week before." By 1930, it was only potatoes, onions, and bread. You could make 100 meals with a loaf of bread if you tried. Here is a typical recipe from 1930, potato soup. 4 potatoes, 1 onion, water, pinch of salt. That was it. Maybe a splash of milk if you were lucky. This was the year bread with milk gravy became a staple. Flour, lard, water, and whatever milk was available.
1931. Shanty kitchens.
Shantytowns, mockingly called Hoovervilles, sprang up around cities. Families built stoves out of bricks and cooked whatever they could scavenge. Unemployment hit 15.9%. Farm prices continued to fall. Cotton dropped to 6 cents a pound, wheat to 38 cents a bushel. Recipes turned into foraging meals. Dandelion greens, wild onions, cattails. One woman in Ohio remembered, "We ate dandelion salad every spring. Daddy said God put it there for poor folks."
1932. Rock bottom.
This was the worst year of the Depression. Unemployment soared to 23.6%. Soup kitchens fed thousands daily. Kids wrote in school essays that their favorite meal was bread with sugar water. Recipe: 1932, milk toast. 1 piece stale bread, 1 cup hot milk, sprinkle of sugar. It was called comfort food. To us today, it sounds bleak. One boy in New York remembered crying when his teacher offered him an extra serving of soup. He hadn't eaten in 2 days.
1933. FDR and Hope on the plate.
Franklin D. Roosevelt became president and launched the New Deal. Relief began to trickle in. The Federal Surplus Relief Corporation started distributing flour, beans, rice, and canned beef. School lunch programs expanded. Kids got bean soup, cornmeal mush, and peanut butter sandwiches. Here's a recipe from the 1933 WPA cookbook. Cornmeal mush. 1 cup cornmeal. 4 cups water. 1 teaspoon salt. Boil, pour into a loaf pan, let set. Slice and fry the next day. Suddenly, many families could count on something every day, even if it was the same mush over and over.
1934. Dust Bowl desperation.
The Dust Bowl reached its peak. Crops failed, livestock died, dust storms buried fields. Families abandoned farms by the thousands. One survivor from Oklahoma remembered, "We ate cornbread 3 times a day, sometimes with molasses, sometimes with beans, sometimes with nothing, just cornbread." An example of a recipe from 1934, cornbread without eggs or milk. 1 cup cornmeal, 1 cup water, 1 tablespoon lard, pinch of salt, baked in a skillet. Hard, flat, but edible.
1935. Government beans.
The Works Progress Administration, WPA, expanded relief. Families received sacks of navy beans, flour, lard, and powdered milk. Government beans became both a joke and a lifeline. What did they do with all those beans? Here is a recipe from the 1935 WPA Homemaker Guide. Baked beans. 2 cups dried navy beans, 1 tablespoon lard, 2 tablespoons molasses or syrup, if affordable, salt, slow cooked all day. This is also when Eleanor Roosevelt became infamous for promoting thrifty White House meals, like prune pudding and cottage cheese salad. Critics mocked her, but her point was clear. If the first family could eat cheaply, so could you.
1936. Kilt lettuce and wild food.
Appalachia and the South leaned heavily on foraging and garden greens. I swear I paid $18 for this very salad last week at a local restaurant. It's a recipe from 1936. Kilt lettuce. 1 bunch wild lettuce. 2 tablespoons hot bacon grease, or lard if no bacon. Splash of vinegar. The hot fat over the lettuce, making a warm salad. WPA interviews from Kentucky described entire families living off pokeweed, beans, and cornbread. Meat was rare, reserved for Sundays.
1937. Stretching meat.
By 1937, unemployment had improved to 14%, but meat was still expensive. Enter the meat stretcher recipes. Meatloaf with oats or rice. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. Bologna stew. A recipe from the 1937 Community Cookbook. Oatmeal meatloaf. 1 pound ground beef. 1 cup oatmeal, 1 onion, 1 egg if available. Salt. Bake in loaf pan, slice thin.
1938. Mock foods boom.
As the economy recovered slightly, mock recipes exploded in popularity. People had more ingredients, but habits of thrift remained. Mock apple pie, mock chicken, made with veal or even rice, and mock banana sandwiches appeared in cookbooks. One Nebraska woman laughed in an interview. "I didn't taste a real banana until I was 12. Before that, it was turnips with banana flavoring."
1939. The turning point.
The Depression wasn't fully over until World War II, but by 1939, food security improved. The food stamp program launched that year, letting families buy surplus goods cheaply. Menus grew more varied. People still ate beans and cornbread, but meat and fresh produce slowly returned. One WPA diary ends with the line, "We had chicken on Sunday. First time in 4 years. Tasted like heaven."
School lunches, a lifeline.
For millions of children, school lunch programs saved lives. Menus from WPA reports that kids survived on. Monday, navy bean soup, bread, apple. Tuesday, cornmeal mush with milk, prune pudding. Wednesday, peanut butter sandwich, carrot sticks, milk. One boy in West Virginia told a reporter he ate so fast because I ain't had nothing since yesterday.
The strange sweet tooth.
Even in hard times, people crave dessert. Prune pudding, promoted by Eleanor Roosevelt. Water pie, sugar, flour, water, and butter, baked thin. Vinegar pie, tart, custard-like, using vinegar instead of fruit. These weren't luxuries, they were morale. A spoonful of sweetness made hunger easier to bear.
The legacy of Depression cooking.
Strangely, many Depression foods never left us. Meatloaf, mac and cheese, casseroles, even Ritz pies, these became comfort foods. They remind us of a time when America learned to live with less and found dignity in making something out of nothing. As one survivor, Mrs. Ruby Davidson of Arkansas said, "It didn't matter what it was. If Mama put it on the table and we were all there, it was a feast." The Great Depression was more than an economic collapse. It was a daily struggle at the dinner table. But it also showed us the resilience of families, the ingenuity of home cooks, and the way food, no matter how simple, can hold us together. My parents were born right after the Depression ended, so as a result, their parents were still in thrifty mode. They made do with less and made the staples in the pantry stretch. My dad always had a coffee can next to the stove with bacon grease in it. My mother stretched meals with pasta and potatoes. We never went without, but the signs that they came from a generation that did go without was very apparent. There are entire generations of us out here that have no idea how good we have it, and that may be a good thing, but it also may be a bad thing, as we live for today and never for tomorrow. The older generations have some stockpiles and food stores just in case. So if you are young and you are listening to this episode, next time you grocery shop, pick up an extra bag of rice, a few extra cans of something you love, because you never know what is around the corner. We are always just one historical event away from economic strife. So the next time you sit down with a hot meal, remember, history isn't just written in books. Sometimes it's simmering quietly in the kitchen. Give us a like, subscribe, tell your BFFs to listen. It all helps. Till next time, my dear strange listeners, be well and enjoy your $18 wilted salads, because apparently it's a historic recipe.